So here we go, live on YouTube again. Another round of practice, and hopefully another round when no one jumps on here. So I had massive technical difficulties trying to get this to work. It's now completely thrown off course. But the topic is very clearly, a very simple one. Why do we want to change? Why would we bother? What would be the motivating factor that would inspire you to do something different with your life that would help you to create that change? So instead of being in a state of coping, instead of being in a place where you just get by every day, being in a state where you pretend everything is okay, what would it take and why would you do it? Now, I've explained in the title here, in the description, why I did it. And I think for most people, if I or someone like myself can get to a point where we can inspire you to some self-honesty, if we can inspire you to drop the denial and the bullshit lies that you tell yourself, I think our kids can be a very good reason. Now, in saying that, we've got to be really cautious that, in doing something for our children, we need to do it for ourselves. Because if we teach them to people please, which is to do things for others' satisfaction, then they're going to live a life spent always seeking satisfaction from others. So when I say I did this for my kids, what I mean, and I think simply put, is that I had to inspire myself to make these changes for myself so my kids would benefit. See, what I've learnt in my 48 years, and it's been an interesting 48 years, I can promise you that, is that the things that we don't heal, or if you're more comfortable with the things that we don't deal with, that is the things that we refuse to be honest about. The personality traits, the habits, the addictions, the mistakes that we refuse to admit to, the relationships gone sour, the jobs that we burnt bridges, all these things from our past that we've not dealt with, these things that hold a little place inside us because we refuse to admit to them and be honest about them, this all gets passed down to our kids. And that's a pretty sobering thought. And it's one that usually has people jump off any other live when I bring it up, because people don't want to face this. People don't want to face the reality that the world is in a pretty shit place, and it is predominantly a shit place because as adults, we refuse to deal with our crap. And so for each new generation, we compound that junk. And so these poor kids that now come into the world are not only having to deal with the mess that they're faced with the big C word and all the other stuff going on in the world, they're carrying ancestral, they're carrying our junk. And we're carrying the junk that our parents gave us, and they were carrying the junk that their parents gave them. And so this isn't about blaming or shaming or demonizing parents and grandparents. It's far from it. What it is it's about accepting. It's about being honest. It's about taking control of what you are responsible for. And that is 100% your choices in this lifetime. You don't get to point the finger. You don't get to blame anyone else. That's not what this lifetime is about. You don't get to look at your kids, realize that you should be doing better, only to give up and stop because someone else did something to you or someone took something from you. I've lived a life that is full of these moments where I can prove to you that you own all of it. There's no such thing as an adult who is not responsible for their own lives. And so why do I get in on these lives when there's no one watching? Because I'm motivated to hone my craft so I can find that inspiration point for someone. I want to be able to help people find that moment in their lives where they say enough is enough. And then realize that in that moment, the tools and the method they need to use to change it aren't that big. They don't take forever. They can take 3 to 6 months. That simple, I guarantee it, because I've done it and I still do it. It's not a difficult thing to change your life. It requires a couple of things from you: dedication and discipline. We have too many cowards in the world today, and that's why, as a coach, I'm not a millionaire, and I'm never going to be one, because I call people out on their bullshit. Because many times in my life, whether it was stuck in an African prison, whether it was in my teenage years, whether it was in my drug-fueled years, I had people turn around and say to me that I was my own worst enemy and that I was responsible for where my life was at that point. I didn't listen to them, and it took me till I was in my 40s to understand that I was solely responsible for each and every day I woke up, for the choices I took. And so I started waking up every day, making different choices, asked a lot more questions, and what I learned was that honesty was the key. Self-honesty. Being able to look at myself and say, I just lied. Being able to look at myself and say, I just manipulated that situation. To be able to look at myself and say, I just cheated that situation. To be able to look at that situation and say, I gave up when I could have done better. To be able to look at that situation and be honest about the role I played in an argument. To be able to look at that situation and understand the relationship with my family or my friends that I may have fucked up. Honesty. For all the self-help, for all the motivation, for all the Anthony Robbinses out in the world and not taking the piss out of them, it comes down to this ability to face denial. When you can tell the truth to yourself about yourself, then you start to change your life. There's no book that teaches you that. That's a defining moment in your own life, that you wake up one day and you see something bigger than you and say, you know what, I'm not going to pass this on. Whether you've got kids or not, it doesn't matter. Do you want to pass this on to the rest of the world? Do you want to carry that on your shoulders and wear that like a badge of honor? Most people don't. That's not what we're put here for. We're not put here to survive. We're put here to thrive. I'll see you next time, people. Thanks.